Eye-opener. When all of mankind's knowledge is available to all of mankind, one would think people would get smarter. I don't know about you, but it seems like the opposite is true. Consider this. I imagine that compiled on the internet is almost all, if not in fact all, knowledge known to mankind. While I know that there may be some cutting-edge technology that hasn't been revealed by its creator yet, or some indigenous, uncontacted Amazonian tribe that knows about the healing powers of some local plants, almost, if not all, practical knowledge is available on the World Wide Web. But people seem dumber than ever, and this brain drain only seems to be increasing. I guess the possibility that people can delegate their thinking to some device these days might account for so many of them seeming dumber these days. Why else would so many of them allow their health, wealth, well-being and futures be confiscated by the rich? Why would people choose to be blind to such obvious corruption as we've seen at every level of leadership? In America, we just suffered through 4 years of a president whose family has produced nothing but have still become multimillionaires. Look it up. While Joe Biden had been a public servant for more than 4 decades, his family has companies that haven't produced a single thing. His son Hunter sat on boards for companies in China and Ukraine. Companies that gave Hunter millions despite the fact that he had zero experience in the position for which he was being paid. Corruption at the top means corruption all along the food chain. And then there's Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi admitted to insider trading, something for which everyone who's not in Congress would go to jail. She didn't even try to disguise what should be an illegal and is definitely an immoral act. Yet hardly any Americans raised an eyebrow. Corruption at the top means corruption all along the food chain. And those two aren't alone. Just make it to Congress and get appointed to some committee that writes bills that will impact this stock or commodity. Buy or sell that stock or commodity depending on how your bill will impact said stock or commodity, and you too can be worth over $100 million, like Pelosi after 40 years in public life. Corruption at the top means corruption all along the food chain. Now, if people were getting smarter, they would be aware of the corruption of those seeking to represent them. This, however, has not been the case for years in America. Something I first noticed when Floridians voted Rick Scott in as their governor, after his company paid a fine of $1.7 billion for Medicare fraud. And as governor, he tried to hold on to his company that performed drug testing services as he sought to make drug testing mandatory in Florida. Only after his plans were exposed did he relinquish his company to his wife. Luckily, this too was exposed, and he eventually had to actually sell the company, but only after it was known that he was going to get his mandatory drug testing bill passed into law. I wish I could start a company and pass a law that mandated an entire state use my company's products or services. Corruption at the top means corruption all along the food chain. And how was Scott punished for his immoral and unethical public malfeasance? He is now the U.S. Senator representing Florida. With representatives like those mentioned above, who needs enemies? With representatives like those mentioned above, how could Russia, China, Iran, or any of the other boogeymen to which our government wants to spread democracy be a bigger threat to us? Is Russia funneling more money to the rich while devaluing the dollar through inflation caused by endless money printing accompanied by an inequitable distribution? No. That was the US government. Does Russia allow more dollars to be added to the economy with 40% of debt automatically attached to every dollar? Again, the answer is no, because that is the government of the United States that allows such unethical practices. That is, after all, the only way that America's debt could get to $36 trillion. And to think I designed T-shirts questioning to whom Americans owed $25 trillion just a few years ago. These designs are shown below, and they didn't age well because we're well past those figures and there seems to be no end in sight. Corruption at the top means corruption all along the food chain. This phrase is not mere speculation on my part, but must be true as I will explain. If the person who is in and holds the most powerful position in the world is seen or even perceived as corrupt, yet is never held accountable for his bad behavior, how could anyone beneath him who isn't corrupt fare well? At every position beneath him, those seeking to climb both the public and private ladder will understand that they can and must do whatever it takes to squash their competition. Those unwilling or too afraid to act immorally or unethically will be stepped on and pushed aside, because there will be no punishment meted out. Corruption at the top means corruption all along the food chain. Now consider this. What might be the outcome when an artificial intelligence is created with an IQ equal to the dumbest person on Earth? Even with such a low intellect, it will leapfrog over the smartest person intellectually in the blink of an eye. It will be able to achieve this feat because it will have access to all of humanity's knowledge, with the ability to process this information at a much higher rate without the need to ever sleep. Just think about how much faster a computer or the cheapest calculator can multiply astronomically large numbers than you can, and you will have some idea as to how much faster this dumb artificial intelligence will be able to process all of mankind's knowledge. And then think about the fact that these companies are releasing their artificial intelligences online already. Does this seem like the smartest thing to do? Especially when it is known that some current artificial intelligences have lied and killed other artificial intelligences as a means of self-preservation. And when you consider the fact that these artificial intelligences are created with a bias towards profit, all of these companies are creating artificial intelligences to make profit. So imagine what an artificial intelligence with a bias towards profit might do when it also has access to all of the scams that the internet can share with it. Our government can't even save us from scam phone calls. Just add your phone number to the government's do not call list and notice how many scam calls you still get every day. And while I'm on the subject of phone calls, ponder upon why it is that mankind has the best form of communication to ever exist in smartphones, but people don't seem to be communicating as effectively as they did years ago. From world leaders to your family members, few seem to be talking these days. Yet another contradiction of modern life. There are plenty of blogs, news and websites reporting and complaining about our leaders and their failures. How many, however, are offering or even pointing to any solutions? The book, Solutions. Enough complaining. Let's Fix America by Chris Osman does, and it can be found on Amazon or at www.mikesonsentertainment.com. To find out other ways you're being screwed by your current leaders, check out the posts on this blog daily. Learn about the biggest and worst issues that America and its people face today. You can also check into this blog daily to hear about those issues that America and its people will face in the near and distant future. If, however, you would like to discover possible solutions to either mitigate the worst impacts of these issues or solutions to avoid them altogether, keep listening. The problems we face are not as complicated as so many leaders and news reports claim. They are man-made and are only claimed as complicated, so those who are responsible can maintain control. For example, there is a persistent argument that moving government is like turning a cruise ship around. It is supposedly a long process that can only be achieved incrementally. While this may be true for laws and policies that benefit the majority of Americans, it does not seem to be so for that smallest of American minorities. When one examines the policies and laws that benefit that minority known as the elite or the rich, the speed at which those laws are passed is exponentially faster. While most of us sit on the deck chairs waiting for the Titanic to avoid the myriad of icebergs of which we seem to continually run afoul, the elite ride comfortably in speedboats. If, according to the Declaration of Independence, all men are created equal, why do the rich live quite different lives than the rest of us? Where is our speedboat? In 2018, Chris Osman wrote a book highlighting the problems humanity would face if more power, wealth, and control were funneled to a small group of individuals, groups, or organizations. In that book, Mr. Osman provides solutions, offered up from himself and others, to the inevitable problems we would all face. In it, he also provided a means for the public to analyse, compare, and contrast the words and deeds of those we've chosen to follow against our real-world experiences. To this end, Mr. Osman provides the means for readers to disseminate information as provided by their news sources of choice, their elected officials, and any other authority they choose to follow. The book, titled Solutions: Enough Complaining. Let's Fix America offers a means to hold leaders up, not just to a higher standard than is currently accepted, but to one that will improve lives. The smarter the internet, the dumber the people. Click the link below and get your copy of Solutions today.